Boy and the Heron is a monumental and important film, not only marking the return of legendary auteur Hayao Miyazaki, who quite literally crawled his way out of retirement for this. Again, what's this, like the third time now? But also because it marks the second time an anime has won an Oscar. Not only that, it also marks the second time that an isekai has won the Oscar, following on from Spirited Away's success, which proves once and for all that isekai really is the greatest genre in the anime medium. Hence why we're bombarded with so much of it all the time, and we're totally not sick and tired of it at all. The Boy and the Heron tells the tale of Mahito Maki, a young boy who begins the film by tragically losing his mother in a fire at the hospital that she's staying in, a fire caused by a firebombing, since like other Miyazaki films, the Second World War plays a role in this story, which does make sense since The Boy and the Heron seems to be a very personal film for Miyazaki. So of course the war would be here, as Miyazaki has gone on record stating that my first memories are of bombed out cities. What really boosts the impact of this scene is the beautifully spellbinding animation on display. Longtime collaborator Shinya Ohira really pulls you into Mahito's perspective of what's happening, with people in the environment often feeling like they are just ever so slightly out of focus, passing him by so quickly, with his only concern being his mother and everything else just being a blur. It's a very striking start to this movie and emblematic of just how fantastic the animation will continue to be throughout the film. 1 year after this awful event, Mahito and his father leave Tokyo to live with Mahito's aunt, his mother's younger sister, someone who also seems very close to his father. I don't know how I'd feel if I died and my wife moved on to my younger brother, but I guess as someone famously said, sometimes you gotta keep it in the family. Natsuko, the aunt, reveals to Mahito that she'll be his new mum, which maybe is not the best way of saying it, and that she's also pregnant, with the baby being either Mahito's younger brother or sister. I wonder if this kid will steal Mahito's bride after he dies. What? It might run in the family. Anyway, even though he doesn't say a word, it's clear that Mahito isn't very thrilled about the situation. A year may have passed, but losing your mother is not a wound that ever truly heals, and is someone that can never be replaced. To make matters worse, Mahito is getting into fights with his classmates. He even chooses to seriously injure himself so he can stay in his room away from others, a decision which makes it easier for the Grey Heron, a creature that seems suspiciously interested in Mahito, to tempt him over to this tower near his house. But what is this tower? Well, as the story goes, the tower is built by Natsuko's great uncle, a man who mysteriously vanished one day. During a flooding, a passage to the main house collapsed, revealing a maze of tunnels beneath this tower. They were so dangerous that they ended up being sealed off to prevent anyone from entering. Realising that there's something off about this heron, Mahito confronts it. Here we get to see the facade disappear, as well as bear witness to an incredible voice performance courtesy of Robert Pattinson. Honestly, if I didn't know that it was him beforehand, then I never would have guessed that he was voicing the character. I guess he really is the master of doing weird voices. Delusions! The heron then reveals to Mahito that his deceased mother isn't really dead. You know, he never saw the body, and that the heron will guide him to her. A claim that Mahito knows can't be true, but at the same time, this is a talking heron, and he has been dreaming of his mother, begging for him to save her. Even the fishies and froggies want him to help. Before temptation can overtake him, Mahito is rescued by his aunt, with him now viewing the heron as his enemy. One day, as he fashions a bow to take down the annoying bird, he sees Natsuko walk into the woods. Thinking nothing of it, he continues to work on his weapon. However, it turns out that maybe he should have paid a little more attention to her, as she has now gone missing. Retracing her steps, Mahito and one of the old maids find themselves at the tower, which is now suspiciously unblocked. even the motion sensor lights turn on.
It's a trap!
Thank you, Admiral Akbar, but they both already know that. However, if they don't enter the tower, then they'll never find Natsuko and bring her home. After a little scuffle, Mahito demands the Heron take him to his aunt, something that the Heron reluctantly agrees to do, which results in the floor slowly sucking them down. Mahito is then plunged into this fantastical other world of bird creatures, adipose, and bloody talking pelicans. Is Mahito's mother really alive? Will he be able to rescue his aunt and return her to their world? And does he even want to return to a world so filled with pain, one that burns his mother alive and ostracises him for merely existing? The answers to all these questions and more can be found in the second half of The Boy and the Heron. Wait, the second half? What do you mean the second half? That's right, everything that I've detailed here occurs in the first half of the film, specifically the first 50 minutes, so just 10 shy of the halfway point. Which leads into my first criticism of this movie, and one that I see a lot of people have with this film. And that is its pacing, which to me felt all over the place. Certain scenes and ideas drag on, whilst others that feel like they could have done with more breathing room are rushed and end too quickly. Let me reiterate once again that it takes nearly half the film for us to build up to the main narrative where our lead gets isekai'd to another world. That doesn't sound right to me. This is a film brimming with so many ideas. Unsurprisingly, this world-renowned director has a beautiful imagination. In a world where it currently feels like Hollywood is just churning out the same formulaic nonsense for me to lap up, I really did get a kick out of seeing something truly new and original. For Miyazaki to give us a glimpse of the ideas that float through his mind is an experience in itself. That said, it feels like this is a film brimming with so many ideas to the point that it is overflowing. So many feel superfluous to the larger narrative, with us going on detours instead of the quickest path through this story. I'm sure there's plenty of thematic messaging and reasoning behind these scenes, but they could have been removed and the overall narrative would end the same. These moments, at least to me, are pieces of fat that could have been trimmed to beef up the sections of the movie that actually needed that time. That being the relationships between the characters. Mahito's relationship with his aunt is painfully underdeveloped, with them not getting the screen time for me to be truly invested in her rescue. It feels like Mahito is only trying to save her because that's what he should do, not because he's beginning to accept her. I'm not saying that he needs to love her to want to save her, but I am saying that there should have been some development in their relationship. By the end, it really felt like very little, if anything, had changed between them. Maybe that's the point, but it's not the most compelling viewing experience for me to watch a relationship that remains stagnant for 2 hours. It's not just their relationship that's like this. The titular boy and Heron also feel underdeveloped, but for the opposite reason. Their relationship completely changes over the course of the film, yet it never really felt earned to me. As if at some point, they needed to be on good terms, but there weren't enough scenes of them together to make that transition feel natural. Similarly, Mahito's relationship with Lady Hime left me underwhelmed. This is arguably the most important relationship in the film, yet not much comes from this. There's no real conflict between the characters, no eye-opening discussions, nothing Mahito says makes Hime stop and think, and the same from her to him. Either she's leading the way and he's following her, or he's leading and she's following, and there's not much else to them than that. To be clear, I'm not saying that there's no progress in these relationships or that the film does nothing with them, it's just that for me, not enough was done to get me to actually care about them. A simple solution would have been to just have the Heron and Hime in the same scenes together to provide more screen time for the both of them instead of having Mahito deal with the supporting characters individually. Ultimately, the emptiness of the relationships is how I really ended up viewing this film, as one that is empty. When Miyazaki was a child, his mother gifted him the coming-of-age novel How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. These 4 words act as the prompt for this film, as well as its Japanese title, with the film also being loosely based on the book of Lost Things by John Connolly and Ghost Tower by Edogawa Rompo. When asked, "How do you live?" Miyazaki simply responded by saying, "I'm making this movie because I do not have the answer." You're not supposed to watch this film seeking answers, but to instead ponder the meaning behind what is presented to you. Unfortunately, I see no reason to do that, as the film seemingly has nothing to offer me. Yes, there are plenty of themes here, those of grief and wanting to escape the world, and also those of choosing to accept this harsh world we live in for what it is and to live with that. But sadly, there just wasn't enough here to click with me. If there was a point to this film, then I certainly missed it, and unfortunately, I don't care enough about the story and characters to ever try and find out what that point is. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that I would have given the Oscar to Across the Spider-Verse. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that The Boy and the Heron is undeserving of its Oscar. This film is well directed, unsurprisingly, and boasts some truly beautiful animation. The voice cast is equally stacked. I like that Shuichi's voice actors, Takuya Kimura and Christian Bale, both voiced Howl, and both seem to have been brought back for that reason. And it's important to note that this is also a deeply personal film to Miyazaki, as a lot of his films are. For example, Miyazaki's father was employed by a company involved in the manufacturing of fighter plane components, just like Mahito's. Mahito feels like an outcast. That's exactly how Miyazaki felt too, as he suffered from digestive problems as a child, even being told that he would not live past 20. Miyazaki's mother is extremely important to him, with many of his female characters being based on her. Many have assumed that Hime is based on Miyazaki's mother. The Boy and the Heron and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are two very different films that will appeal to two very different groups. Spider-Man is a simpler, more direct, more digestible narrative, whereas The Boy and the Heron is far more abstract, asking you to put in the work to uncover its mysteries. And as I already said before, if I was more invested in this world and its characters, then maybe I would try to do that. But as it stands right now, The Boy and the Heron did deserve its Oscar, but like a lot of Miyazaki's works as I'm learning, just did not click with me personally. When it comes to Ghibli movies, it seems like Isao Takahata is the guy that I vibe with. However, I do know that a lot of people really love this film, and I'm very interested to see what you guys took away from this. What meaning were you able to get from this movie? Why do you personally love it? Let me know in the comments below, and whilst you're down there, please do click the like button. It really helps both me and the video out. And do consider subscribing, I'd love to have you become a regular viewer. But until next time, thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one.
Bye bye!